Okay, so welcome to the Midlife Momentum podcast. I am very excited today. I have a guest with me. It's Dr. Liz Jenkins, and she helps couples reconnect, repair, and reignite their love, quickly transforming their relationships or marriages to the connection and passion of their early years. So she's been married for 38 plus years. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist and certified connection coach with over 75,000 focus time, sorry, 75,000 hours of focused time working with couples and women. She is a trusted expert who quickly identifies each couple's and individual's unique path for success in their self-love and relationships. So thanks for joining us on the podcast, Liz.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you and chat with your audience too. This is going to be fun. I have my
Yeah,
tea, so we can just get going, huh?
good. I got my tea too.
All
So
right, all right.
perfect. We are all set.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is going to be good because in
Yeah.
midlife, and this podcast is all about women in midlife, our relationships are changing.
Yes,
And
they are.
not just our romantic relationships, we had a discussion earlier, but it's also those with our kids, those with our parents, those with our colleagues, and
Yeah.
especially that relationship with ourselves. So and you're the perfect person, I believe, to talk about relationships. This is what you do. So I know you'll help shed some light on these relationships and how they're changing and how we can move forward. And I guess I'd like to start with a relationship with ourselves because I think it's the most important foundational relationship that we have, and we usually forget about it. So I think it's good to look at this relationship. So, and in particular because it is changing, and we talked a little bit about this transition and grief, and there's different
Mhm.
emotions related to this transition. So, can you talk a little bit about how that relationship with ourself might change in midlife?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Both professionally, get to hear folks' stories day in and day out type of thing. But personally, I graduated with, with menopause, flunked a little bit, but graduated. So I can to give you both the personal and the professional experience. And grief is probably, I would say, one of the most overlooked aspects of menopause. Or just even this life transition as we start going through this. For so many years, for us as women, maybe from our early teens type of thing, we've had this pattern of having a period. There's this rinse, there's this, cycle. We couldn't wear the nice underwear, or we couldn't wear the white pants, or you had the, we had this friend enemy that followed us all through our lives. And then as we start getting into, for some folks, it's late 30s, 40s, 50s type of thing. This pattern and this routine starts to falter. And oftentimes we don't even really know what's wrong, but we sort of feel off. And so getting in touch with ourselves and giving ourselves some grace to have emotions around that, around the menopause, what it means to us, both as the concept of being a woman and perhaps being able to be fertile and have children, um, as well as being able to eat whatever we want and stay, slim, or be sexual or physically intimate and not wonder what's wrong or my body's changing. And so I think one of it is like recognizing that we're in a new season of life,
Mm,
and that's good and it's okay.
mm, that's so
There's
good.
Yeah. There's also the other side for some women that I've heard some people like, what, I was terrified about hot flashes, or I thought this, and they didn't have as many of some of these symptoms. Um, and there's others that say, I'm just so excited. I'm thrilled. Do you know how much money I'm saving on,
Mhm.
not buying these supplies or type of thing. So for to give yourself some grace, as there's going to be probably a whole continuum, very much at like the grief of a loss of a loved one, or some of the other life tragedies. We may have periods of depression or regret or wishfulness. We may have periods of joy and wow, life is really simple. Um, the we talk about prioritizing ourselves. This is
Mhm.
a time where many women feel lost because there's a part of our identity that has the identity slash job, and that's kind of going away. And so, who are we if we aren't, this fertile, potentially fertile person? For those of us that may be out of a relationship and be out there on our own, I oftentimes hear folks thinking, have I missed my chance? And so we're starting to
Mm.
reflect back on maybe a missed soulmate, or the ability to have our own biological children. It's a whole period of emotions as well. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I love your show and I love your podcast, and your focus, because for so many of us, we do go through this in silence, or we don't even really know what's this thing called midlife and what's all involved. Or, you know what? I don't know about you, but you were on social media or these great news break, and no offense, news break, but these great little articles pop up and people are sailing through it, or other people are crashing and burning. And so it gets scary, or sometimes we have this comparison, like we're not doing it right. So as we focus on ourselves, realize we're unique. Um, we are different from the other person. Even if we had a twin, we're different from that, and we're going to have a different experience, both physically, emotionally, mentally. And it's up to us to figure out how we want to go through this, what
Mm.
resources we might need, and what's the future look for us. It's our turn.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good because that whole piece of prioritizing ourselves,
Mhm.
I think it's always important, but at this time of life, it becomes more important because we don't really realize, like you said, we don't talk about it a lot. So, and a big reason I did start the podcast was to have this conversation, these
Mhm.
kinds of conversations,
Yeah.
because we don't realize all the changes we might be going through and why we're feeling certain things. Like you mentioned,
Mhm.
grief. I think that's something I never thought about, like that we would be grieving the person
Mhm.
that maybe we once were, or the body we once had, or the
Yeah.
relationships and the quality of relationships that we had. So many things. And to give ourselves that grace to be able to say it's okay. And like you said, and we're all unique. These things are not going to happen to everyone. Some
Mhm.
people are going to breeze through this, and some people are going to have a really rocky road ahead of them.
Mhm.
But I think it's learning to prioritize ourselves and spend the time on accepting these emotions that are coming up. So
Yeah.
when women do come to you and they're going through all of this, they're having this, I don't want to call it a crisis, but it's kind of like a, oh, what's going on? Like a question, curiosity, maybe even.
Right. Yeah.
What do you suggest that they start with to be able to reconcile this new version of themselves?
Yeah. Well, it gets confusing. It's like
Hmm.
when you've something's always been there, right? And you just accepted it. Just like maybe you ask a woman that's knee deep in children and career, and like, if you had 30 minutes, what would you do? And they're like, uh, and their head's going like, sort clothing. I'd love to take a nap, whatever. And so we don't really know. So understand that it's okay to not know. So that's
Yeah.
the first thing. Recognizing that we're here, recognizing there may be mixed emotions around this. Many people, many women, as they start to get through this, start to get really excited. They don't know, and maybe apprehensive because they don't know what the future looks like. To be at a place where they're no longer biologically dependent, um, or potentially able to be pregnant and things, and what does that do? And so we start to examine our identities, you know, what makes us. We maybe go back to, it's just like when I'm working with couples, what were their early days, maybe before you stepped into this role, or really got knee deep in this. What did you want to do? What were some of your, gee, this would be nice? What are some of the things that catch your eye when you're looking at other people, or you're on social media, or you're getting into your clothes in the morning? Is there something that stray thought that goes through your head. Uh, Also, really importantly, then is our emotions. Oftentimes, we're having very big emotions, and they're ours, okay?
Mhm, mhm.
And other times, we're having really big emotions, and that's the hormones talking,
Mm,
right? And so starting to sort out, am I really irritated, or is this the menopause? Am I really, struggling? Is my brain aging, or is this sort of foggy brain part of the hormones? Kind of like we used to tell women, the pregnant women, like, hey, don't worry, you got the mommy brain right now. It's okay. You got the mommy brain. Well, over
yeah.
here, we've got this other type of thing. And so it's important to start identifying, because the more self aware we can become, the more we can share with our family members who are only getting to observe or experience us, or our coworkers and things. And we'll be able to say, hey, there are going to be times when you will have told me, and I do this all the time, and I'm going to like forget. Or there may be times when I'm just really weepy, or and it might not be you, and it might not actually be me. It might be this chemical change I'm going through. So so it's like we want to start understanding that, so we don't throw our partners or spouses under the bus, so we can explain and help take some of that confusion off of their shoulders. Um,
Mm,
and the more we know, the more we can educate our children, or
yeah.
kind of share this moment forward with the world, so to speak. So there's a lot of value in sharing one's story. That I think we used to get casually when families and people stuck around and lived in the same towns.
Mhm.
That in today's world, we are a little bit more spread out, or
Yeah.
more isolated with social media and the phones. And so still good to connect with people, and connecting with ourselves is first.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's really interesting that you just mentioned that too, is we did used to live in more closer proximity. Things were
Mhm.
probably shared more, and we don't have as much of that sharing perhaps anymore because we're not as close to those other women in our lives, the older women in our
Right.
lives maybe that we used to be. But I thought that's really interesting. I never thought about
Yeah.
that. But
And
you
it was
mentioned,
casual.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was casual, exactly. It was just everyday life, right? It
Hmm.
wasn't something we specifically addressed. It just
Hmm.
sort of came up. But you mentioned also in what you were talking about how the partner is affected or
Hmm.
how the partner could be affected by our menopause transition. So it's not just us going through this
Oh yeah.
and us dealing with ourselves in midlife. It's, what our partner might be going through and addressing maybe an understanding that they're also going through something right now because we're going through something.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, they get the joy of the journey, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's cute when I'm talking to couples and relationships. There's so many partners, so many spouses, hubbies. Sometimes they'll say, um, husbands or wives. It's with the couples, but they'll say, "I've been thinking something's been going on, but I didn't know how to say it, and I didn't want to offend her, and things." And so sometimes they are sort of our first alert that something's changes, because we're so involved in it at times. We don't see it happening, but our partners might suddenly, or our spouses might say, "Wow, she's kind of grumpy these days," or I remember personally, like in my world, I watched my mom go through with the air conditioner and the heater type of thing, because she was having the hot flashes.
Yeah.
And so she'd go like, just walk in there and like flip the air conditioner. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, it's hot in here. And we're all like in sweaters. Okay. Won't say anything to mom, type of thing. And so we didn't know what it was, but we knew something was different. And so those partners may say things like, she's the one that always watches the budget, and now she's walking around flipping the air conditioner on and stuff. And I knew something was different. And if I or she's being more irritable, or she's more quick to tears. So they may see something, your kids may see something, even your pets. It's really cute. I always tell
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, when couples are talking about, we don't know what brings up the fight. And I'm even asking them like, well, where are your animals going when you, and they're like, oh, like some will crawl in your laps and start giving you all extra kisses. And some are like, I'm just going to slide off the couch and go to the other room. And so they are also sensitive to those changes. So when you're working with a couple, or if you're starting to experience this, or your doctor says, let's say, hey, says you've been on the pill for all these years, it's time that we stop it so we can get an accurate reading where your hormones are, because it seems like you might be going through menopause. Those are great conversations to be having with your partners and your spouses. Don't keep it a secret. We think we're hiding it, but
Mhm.
they maybe already knowing all about it.
Yeah.
And those conversations are super important. Even folks that maybe have had fertility issues or things, and they're moving into maybe a hormonal change, you may need to be talking about birth control, other kinds of
Mhm.
birth control, because they're, when the hormones switch, you don't know which way they're going to go.
That's
Um,
right.
so, so we talked, like, I guess we were just talking about how casually conversations used to come up maybe when we were in just everyday conversations in these small worlds where we didn't move. Casual conversations can happen with our spouses around these kinds of conversations. And many people say, well, where do I start? Or this is embarrassing, or I don't even know what to say. Okay. Your
Mm.
podcast might be a great one. Hey, sweetie, I was listening to this podcast and it had some really great information. Could you, do you mind when you have a chance, not right there at the moment, you know, can you listen to this? It starts at minute 5 and it goes to minute 7. Okay,
Mhm.
so you kind of
Mhm.
framed it up like, oh my God, 45 minutes. That's
Yeah.
just laughing, on menopause. Oh boy, midlife. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you kind of frame it up. And then I want to chat. So that's a way to introduce a conversation. Or I saw
Mm.
this really cool article and I think it has something going on. Or I don't know if it's me or what, but I'm gonna talk to my doctor and maybe see about some blood tests. There's simple ways to start to bring the conversation up. There's also more formal ways of, hey, when you get a chance, because we always want to make sure that our partners, our spouses, our kids, everybody, just like a business meeting, it's going to work for them. They're not going to feel rushed or
Mm.
ambushed. And so I really, really want to talk about some of the things I'm noticing um, about my body. And, when you get a chance, what's a good time, that type of thing. So we give them the topic, we ask when's a good time. It's always great to get out of the house, go for a walk. Humans work so much better when we're moving. So going for a walk, maybe going to a new place, going outside to the park or sitting on the back patio and just chatting
Mhm.
about what you see and being open to hear what they have to say. Because again, they've been sitting on the outside and they might accurately or inaccurately have some observations that they share, like, my stomach's been bloating, it's been
Mhm.
pooched. No, it hasn't. That was just, well, we don't want to get offensive. So we want to facilitate. There's no right or wrong.
Mhm.
This is just starting to join in on that journey.
Yeah, I think this last thing that you've said here is being open to hear what they have to say. I think that can be hard because we're asking,
Mhm,
but if we're asking them and we're
mhm.
inviting them, we've got to be open. We've got to be open to what they have to say because for sure it can be painful, but if you know you're
Oh,
opening yourself up to that, it's like, okay, well, I need to
mhm,
know. I need to know, and I'm not gonna, it's not their fault. They're just doing
mhm.
what I'm asking them to do, which is be honest with me. What
Right.
have you noticed about, the last year or so? Have you noticed a change in me? And what are
Mhm,
those changes? And yeah, I think
mhm,
that's an interesting conversation. I think it's good for us to be able to take that on, to take this feedback. It's not criticism, it's feedback. It's like, okay,
mhm,
I'm trying to understand myself, and through you, this
mhm.
outside person has a whole other perspective on you. Your partner
Right,
has this whole other perspective. It's not right or wrong, it's just their view.
right.
So why not take it in because it could just help you as well. So I really,
Yeah.
really like that. And
And it's not, and it's not easy because,
no.
and so you're allowed to have a range of emotions of embarrassment, of outrage, of like, no, no, it's okay. You don't have to defend it. You can hear it. You don't have to agree with it. Just like I tell folks, there's facts and there's feelings, right? And
Mm,
there's their perspective, their perception, and yours. And what is their intent? You've asked for their feedback. Their intent isn't to go, I'm going to give you everything. Their intent is to share what they're seeing, and then, and being helpful. Probably that's my read on it. They were probably trying to be helpful, trying to take advantage of this opportunity to talk about the single most important person in their world, which is you.
yeah, which is you. Exactly. Because you're opening these conversations up with people that you care about. So,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
that's first and foremost to remember for sure.
Yeah.
And so, and I know it's also affects the relationships with others. And you mentioned it could affect the relationships with our children and even
Mhm.
people at work. And so,
Yeah.
how is that? Is there any different way to start those conversations, or is it, pretty much the same thing?
I think it's different. If like
Okay.
for our children, basically we want to like it's the age of them. So some of us might have
Mm,
had children later in life, or we have this you see the back of the cars and they've got all these kids and they're done in this gradiated level. The older children might get more information, or you might have a higher level of conversation with them. The younger ones may get more of, hey, mommy's not, mommy's going whatever you want to say. Sometimes mommy's not feeling really well, and so she's really sorry if she does lose her temper with you, or mommy sometimes cries right now. It's just something her body's doing, and it's not you. You didn't do anything wrong.
mm.
Sometimes mom can use a hug, those kind of things. So you can keep it simple, depending on, because I have
Yes.
some folks that it's very much like you have a hysterectomy and bam, menopause hit like a black wall. So, just I would say age appropriateness and the level of disclosure you would want to go into with your children probably going to be different than you would share with your spouse.
Yeah.
Probably would be different than some of the things you might share with like our peer group here, or some really close friends. Because even your adult children don't need to know all the details,
No,
all the details
no.
in the
We have
bedroom.
to remember that too, right?
Right, right. And that holds over for the employer's world.
Mm,
First off, we don't want to get ourselves laid off or fired or change the perception of our managers or peer groups. But it is okay to frame up in professional ways, especially if your manager might be seeing, hey, Liz, you seem to get flustered and you're not making the deadline. So we're in some kind of a weekly feedback session. That's not where I have to start going like, oh my God, my parents are going here and I ruined my pretty underwear, and and now I can't. That's not that's too much effort. Too much.
TMI.
Yep, yep. But it is a important thing. Like, oh, I appreciate you bringing it. So you show gratitude, you appreciation. That's what kind of embarrassing. I am going through some changes here, and so I appreciate. What are you seeing? Let's look at how I could maybe get back on being on track. And so we're starting to come up with new strategies or systems
Mm,
for me to still be productive, because you're there. You may be just going through that brief, brain fog, or where the high anxiety comes. It may be where you need to say quite simply, look, I'm not out doing smoking breaks, but there are times that I'm going to have more of these hot flashes. I think that's, and so sometimes I need to go out, take a quick walk, or go flush some, water on my face. And
mhm,
how do we get those kind of accommodations in place? Occasionally that goes up to maybe even HR, where HR can write those in. If you're on a call center, let's say, and you're talk, 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 and listen, 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 you may have to have some kind of special exception accommodation for this period of time that allows
mhm.
you a few extra minutes to clock off and come. Other people have more freedom or latitude. And
Yeah.
so it's okay to have a candid but high level discussion about what you might be experiencing and how it's impacting your work so
Yeah.
that they are aware. And most managers that I meet and coworkers even, they're like, hey, it's okay, I got it. If you're feeling, is that too much for me to like drop this big stack of stuff on your desk like that? I get it. What would work for you?
Mm.
And so you have those kind of conversations about how to work together through them. Because we're a team at work and at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that because I think a lot of women are sometimes afraid to bring that up in the workplace too, because they
Mhm,
don't know how it will impact people
mhm,
or impact their work or impact the
mhm.
perception of them. Will they be seen
Yes.
as weaker or incapable of handling
Mhm,
things? Or, I think some
mhm,
women want to hide it. But I like the approach of having this honest conversation. Doesn't have to have a lot of details, but just say,
mhm,
hey, this is what's happening with me right now. I just want you to know, and this
mhm,
is how it could impact me. And are there things that we could talk about that could make things a little easier on me, and so I can continue delivering what I need to do? I
mhm,
think that's a great idea, and it also helps for the women to come, the women who are behind us, who are a little
mhm.
younger than us, because I
Yeah.
think we always, want to help those who are coming up, our daughters, so that when they get here, hopefully they have an easier time of it, and those conversations are already being had, and are more open.
Mhm.
So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Sure.
So I want to like switch a little bit to like, because some women at this point of life are dating, and some
Mhm,
are single, and not everybody's in a romantic relationship at this time, and it can be a different kind of time, I guess, to be finding a new partner, or to be even just enjoying our own company if that's what
mhm,
we choose to do.
mhm.
So, what can we do to make this time easier if we're not in a romantic relationship? Are there any things that we can do for that?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that's important is um, when you're going through this process and you're experiencing a woman that she is definitely going through menopause, single, hasn't been married, had high hopes to be married and have a children. So it's part of her personal development going through this, recognizing her dreams and grieving those dreams in the way she had set, but realizing that there are other dreams and other angles to still having the bottom line. She wants someone special in her world, in her life. She would love to have children to dote on, to care about, to have those kind of interactions. And so she's becoming creative about how she's connecting, well, how she's dating. She's looking at dating differently. Um, and she's looking at who in her peer groups, her family groups has kids, nieces, nephews. She's looking at maybe she will do some more volunteering where she's able to take that nurturing part of herself out there. So look at your dreams. And we talked about go back to the early years and what, as you're facing here, maybe you're in a divorce, maybe you've never married. Um, do you need to change up your focus of how you're dating if you want to continue dating? Dating, many of my folks say, I just want to date. I don't want to date to marry. Well, that's different.
Mhm.
Other folks say, since kids and having kids are sort of off the table now, I'm looking for a different type of companionship, like marriage perhaps, but I want someone, that wants to travel or that you can fill in the blank around that. So this is a time to really, again, reevaluate those um, early year dreams and wishes, grieve those, celebrate them, which ones can be morphed and tweaked, and so be open to a different slant on that. For those of you that are entering into dating and it's menopausal things, there may be changes in your body. Not there are changes, physically. And
Yeah.
so whether we're in a relationship, not dating, we want to be able to like our bodies as they are,
Mhm.
and understand that things might be working differently than they did before. And so you may need to, like, I have some folks that say, I'm just not as aroused, or it takes me longer. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just adjustment, or they have to use other types of lubricants or other types of, positions and things. All of those are normal biological things. But because it happens, say, in the bedroom, we don't talk about it, or we don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I had a very nice lady, second marriage, and she came to me. I had known her before, and she came to me for the second marriage. She says, everything was going great, and now I think this marriage is over. And I'm like, why? I just think I'm not into him anymore. And she says, well, it now hurts and never
Mm.
hurt. And I just sometimes I'm tired and I'm not interested. I'm like, okay, well, welcome to this age and
Mhm.
stage in life, you know? And
Yeah.
I had to reflect back when you were, or younger and you were first married in your first marriage, were there times when you weren't interested? Well, yeah. You were tired? Yeah. Well, I had kids. Well, life is life. But just because you're experiencing something doesn't mean it's a reflection of the relationship. So,
Mhm.
um, but also as you're starting to date, and let's say you're dating, um, and you may want to be re-looking. I had some folks that are older that are dating younger men. And if these people are saying they want to have children and you're starting into this stage and age, it might be important to have those candid conversations if the dating is getting really serious, because that may be off the table for you, or off your, interest list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So very, very different issues that might come up in midlife
Mhm,
for sure. And
mhm,
but I like that it's good to have these open conversations because things do change, like it or not, physically and
mhm,
otherwise.
mhm,
And that it is normal. It is
mhm.
normal that we have vaginal dryness. It is normal
Yeah.
that we could have sexual pain. I mean,
Mhm.
there are things we can do about it and things we should do about it. We should address these issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So not just with the partner we're with, but there are specialists that can help us with that. And we shouldn't ignore them because it is the rest of our lives, and that
Mhm,
this is just the beginning of a new phase and a new way of being, and we just have to adjust.
mhm.
So yeah, I really appreciate that because I know there's a lot of women also in how you define your relationship. We don't necessarily want the traditional relationship we wanted when we were in our 20s or
Yeah.
30s.
Mhm.
We
Yes.
want something different, right?
Uh-huh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even, as if we're running in a singlehood, maybe we're wanting, just to go figure out who we are and what we wanna be, and so some of these things are freeing. I don't know, for those of you who haven't gone all the way through menopause. I remember at times, well, back when we had babies and then we no longer had diapers or baby fitter, and I reflected, wow, it's so cool. I'm not buying diapers anymore, and and look how the money we're saving on not buying baby food. Well, it sort of happens the same thing. All of a sudden now you're bypassing the feminine hygiene aisle at the market and going like, wow, it's been a couple years. Wow, it's been 10 years since I got type of thing. So
Yeah.
it's funny, we get into these habits and sometimes we don't even realize when one thing stops what the other aspect is. Um, I had
Yes.
a very creative gal. She was very, very creative. She said, you know what I started doing to get through this? She says, I started giving myself $10 every month. I said, what's that? She goes, that's what I would, that was way back then. That's what I would spend on, feminine hygiene products, tampons and stuff. And I said, you did? She says, yeah, I've got like over $1,000 here. And I said, well, that's sort of a fun way to celebrate that. She said, yeah, it gave me something to just like timestamp it. but also
Yeah,
have fun with it. So I said, so what are you doing with it? She was taking herself on a little vacation type of thing. So we can get
awesome.
creative. It's how we address these life events. They're not going to go away, but it's how we
Yeah,
address them.
and to have fun with it, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be all doom and gloom. I think it can get us down sometimes, but it doesn't have. There's wonderful things. Like just
Hmm.
just the other night, just noticed like we don't have to close the door at night anymore. We can sleep with the bedroom door open. It's okay.
Wow. Yeah, amazing. It is true. Isn't it funny? And so those are
Mm,
those, I love how you made it.
yeah.
Those are those aha moments. And
Yes.
so when we've always had, in our mind, always had these things, and then we have these aha moments like, this no longer is an issue, or this is different. That's when you're starting to really be in touch with yourself and the now. And I love that. Yeah, look, the door's open.
Yeah, so
Woo! Yeah.
simple, so ridiculously simple, but is a little bit of freedom that you like, I didn't have
Mhm.
that before. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You're getting decadent, you might try to, run in the kitchen with scissors, you know?
Yeah. Naked.
Yeah, there you go, there you go. I love it, I love it,
Ah,
yeah, that's
so
great.
yeah, no, this has been really, really good because I think it's so good and freeing to be able to
Mhm,
talk about these things. I think these
mhm,
are a lot of things that we hold in or keep in, and we don't realize that other people are living them as well.
mhm,
We're definitely not alone. We
mhm,
are surrounded by other women, people who are going through a midlife experience and
mhm,
changes, and it's so great to be able to talk about it. I just
right,
feel
right.
so much better talking about it.
And I love the humor that we can throw on it, and when you say there's people around us, by opening up to our mates, our partners, and things like that, we are tapping into just another level of emotional vulnerability and intimacy, and you can really bring in that extra space by just opening up. There's so many, many loving mates out there that are just waiting for the opportunity
Mm,
and the invite. They don't know. So you know, open that yourself up to that. And if you're,
yeah.
single, dating, whatever, wherever you are, be open to that experience, whether it's humor or empathy from another
Mm,
person. It's there. We just need to be,
yeah.
um, I'm gonna say, be vulnerable to that
Yeah,
shared.
yeah. But I think you're right. I think when we're vulnerable, that's when we get these connection, this
Mhm,
deeper connection where we feel more like,
mhm.
connected.
Yeah.
This person gets me and I get them,
Mhm,
and we share this different kind of bond. And I just think that's a
mhm.
beautiful thing if we can open up and talk about it.
Right. It also gives other people ideas for, when the children have gone, like, "Ooh, let's try opening the bedroom door again."
Yeah,
Look what
exactly.
we have to look forward to,
Yeah,
type of
I
thing.
know. There are things to look forward to. And
Mhm,
that's also what I try to emphasize through this
mhm,
podcast is there are things to look forward to. This is not the
mhm,
beginning of the end or the beginning of a downhill slope.
mhm,
It's the beginning of just a brand new phase of life that can be full of freedom and full of fun and full of
mhm,
new adventures. So,
mhm.
and this is part of it. So I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate you talking about this. Now, there's a question I always ask my guests when they come on here. And so I'm going to ask you, what's the best part for you of getting older?
Oh, wow. Okay. It's that I know the things that I want to share with other people. Um, I've been there, and this gives me the place now where I can just speak up. I don't care, It's kind of like I don't need to be mincing my words. It also is a place for me where older doesn't mean done or ended. Older means I've got so much more cool stuff to do, and I'm now in a space, well, my husband and I are in a space where we can start doing more of those. I learned how to surf just a couple years ago. And
Wow,
yeah, yeah, stood up.
amazing.
It might not be beautiful, but you know. And so there's more adventures. So being older, I think, has freed me up from some of my more, I say, worries about doing things right or following the rules. Saying what I think people need to hear, letting myself try something, even if I don't look perfect.
So much freedom in that, eh? When you
Mhm,
can,
mhm.
I think that
Yeah.
comes with age too, is learning to let go of that, I hope, a little bit
Mhm,
more. But that's so good. I love your answer to that question. And
yeah.
yeah, it's this whole new chapter in life that can be so wonderful.
Mhm. And there'll be a
So,
season to that, and there'll be the catch me in a couple of years, and I'll say, older. I was
yeah.
older. Now I'm older, older. And then look what I found, type of
Yeah.
thing. So,
No, and that's it. And you can
mhm,
keep, as long as you keep that curiosity, as long as you keep that open attitude, life
mhm,
can always be a wonderful adventure. So I think
mhm.
that's an important thing to remember as we age, is
Yeah,
that's what's key. So
yeah.
if anybody, and I know there's going to be women who are very interested in this conversation, interested in your work,
Mhm.
if they want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, where could they find that information?
They can reach me, well, social media, right? I'm
Yes.
on Facebook, Dr. Liz Jenkins. Instagram, it's still Dr_Liz_Jenkins. I have YouTube. You can uh, DM me. I would love to chat with you. On my website too, I have freebies. And so if you DM me, I can also give you the links, but I have one that well, a couple. One is my couples connection checklist, and it's for folks, couples, dating, remember how to stay connected daily, weekly, monthly,
Mm.
and it might be a nice way to start checking back in with each other as you're moving through a different stage in both physically, but also goals and life dreams. Because it's not just a physical thing; it's all over. Where we're going to be going, what are we going to be doing with this new chapter, and also my love languages. I have had so many folks like say that, yes, we got the book, they haven't read
Mhm.
it, or type thing, or yeah, we read it years ago. Well, love languages change, and they change over time, and so this I was sad about hearing so many books sitting on someone's nightstand that hadn't been read, that created fights in their relationship. And so I created a quick, it's a video and a little handout so you guys could just speed through and reassess where your love languages are. Like said, for some folks, maybe physical touch was something back then, or maybe it was like the acts of service where I want you to do things for me. And now maybe it's completely different. And so just reassessing with
Mhm.
each other, and also importantly for yourself, because you can do the love language test for yourself if you're solo, and say, hmm, you know, quality time is more important for me. So where am I going to find the people, platonic or dating, that want to spend time and chill with me? That adds value to my life. And we want to be able
Mhm.
to step into and do this. So
Yeah.
I would welcome DM me, give me questions, reach out to me through social media or on my website.
Okay, well, that's great. Those are really good resources too. And I did read that book years ago, but I should revisit it because maybe my love language has changed, and I haven't looked at that for a while. But thank you for
Mhm.
that, and I will go check that out.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It just it was just really sad. They'd having to fight over something that didn't have to be a fight. And it
Yeah,
was one more fail check mark on his list. And he's like, yeah.
yeah.
So I got you the 2-minute version, and it's
Perfect.
a win-win.
You don't have to read the whole book.
Mm-mm,
Liz has got you
mm-mm.
covered. So
Yes.
I really appreciate this, Liz. This has been a wonderful conversation. I know it will
Yeah,
help other women. And so I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
thank you. I appreciate the invite, and for everyone that's listening, hang in there, have fun. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.